Welcome to Stacktastic, the weekly web show for the avid comic book reader and those who aspire to become so. Now, as you might recall, about a year ago, Alan Kistler and I discussed how both DC and Marvel were finally trying to have more black heroes, most noticeably with the debut, interestingly at around the same time, of Batwing and Miles Morales. Today I'm going to take a look at how black characters in comics are faring 1 year later, plus how Hollywood is also looking to add some diversity to the mix, but by switching established characters from white to black instead of introducing brand new characters. And as always, my recommendations of what comics to pick up or download this week. Let's get started. Color in comics is a tricky issue. Sure, when asked, we all say we'd like to see more diversity on comic book shelves, yet these titles keep getting canceled. Static Shock, Mr. Terrific, Blue Beetle. And while I can't rattle off a list of Marvel titles that have been canceled, that's because they don't even have any comics with minority leads, save for Ultimate Comics Spider-Man, and that title vastly undersells Ultimate Peter Parker. Oh, wait a minute, War Machine's Iron Man 2.0 only made it to 13 issues. But I do feel, though, that Marvel does a better job integrating characters of color into their titles, such as Luke Cage, the introduction of Nick Fury Jr. to the 616, making Black Panther a legitimate lead character in New Avengers, and Storm thankfully returning to the pages of multiple X-Men titles. However, one could also point out that Dr. Voodoo was the Sorcerer Supreme for an embarrassingly short amount of time. War Machine is non-existent in Iron Man's Marvel Now title, Bishop has been turned into a Looney Tunes, and that their black male characters tend to date white chicks, while Storm and Black Panther's marriage was handled so poorly it had to be annulled before destroying both of them. And going back to DC, while it's great to see Cyborg as a member of the Justice League, he remains an underdeveloped character who sits out on most of the action. Promisingly, Vixen and Black Lightning have just joined the team, along with DC tweaking the character to make his name seem less racist, but are they more than just token additions? Steel, Bumblebee, Aqualad, basically benched in the New 52. Batwing is getting his third new writer, John Stewart has to share his title, and while Amanda Waller got a makeover, she's just a supporting character in Suicide Squad, and Team 7 has also been canceled. That leads me to a hard question. Do these titles get canceled because they are poorly done or because there's no audience for them? Take a look at your own stack. Honestly, are you picking up any titles that focus on minority characters? Have you in the past before they were canceled? Why aren't you reading Ultimate Comics Spider-Man if you read Ultimate Spider-Man? And if you argue that it's because these books are subpar creatively, well, I counter-argue that plenty of books that feature white characters have had long periods of poor quality, yet survived. Furthermore, what really makes the lack of sales for books of color a head-scratcher is that comic book readers themselves are so diverse, as are movie audiences. Yes, Hollywood on the whole has had a lot more success with diversity than Marvel and DC, particularly with black actors. Sidney Poitier was a pioneer, while today Denzel Washington and Will Smith are full-blown movie stars who can open films all on their own. The Fast and the Furious has become the first racially diverse mega-movie franchise, and Hispanic audiences have become a major box office force. But comic book movies are still pretty whitewashed. Sure, Wesley Snipes bit into the genre with Blade, but they aren't making those movies anymore. And while Halle Berry portrayed Storm in the X-Men movies, she was hardly as formidable or included a character as she is on the page. The only real success is Smith's superhero movie Hancock, but that's not based on a comic book. Today, as comic book movies are enjoying a renaissance, so far we only have Morgan Freeman on the sidelines as Lucius Fox, and the unfortunate snafu where Terrence Howard was replaced by Don Cheadle as War Machine, neither of which, by the way, appeared in the Avengers. Plus, while Samuel L. Jackson has been so well received as Nick Fury that they've introduced him to the comics, Jackson can't convince Marvel Studios to make a S.H.I.E.L.D. movie. They are making a S.H.I.E.L.D. TV show, but so far Ming-Na Wen is the only minority in an all-white cast. But as movies like Fast and the Furious dominated the box office, the Hollywood studios are becoming more eager and brazen about expanding the appeal of their superhero movies. Marvel Studios will introduce the Falcon in Captain America 2: The Winter Soldier, played by Anthony Mackie. And creating much controversy, Warner Brothers and DC have cast Laurence Fishburne as Perry White in Man of Steel. It's also rumored they've made Jimmy Olsen a girl, but that's a whole other video. Then, the most striking change is the casting of Jamie Foxx as the new Electro in The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Fascinatingly, Fox will play the first major black supervillain in a comic book movie, roles that are highly coveted. Can minority comic book heroes be far behind? Ironically, it's Smith once again who, along with his son Jaden, plays this year's lone minority hero in a big-budget sci-fi movie. Perhaps if After Earth is a hit, Sony will get smart and consider signing up Jaden to play Miles Morales, as they plan to expand their Spider-Man cinematic universe. So will Hollywood have more luck diversifying their superhero movies than the big two have had diversifying their comics? How far away are we from a superhero movie with a minority lead? Should Jon Stewart be the DC Cinematic Universe's Green Lantern over Hal Jordan? And as Jamie Foxx brings Electro to the big screen, does he have the potential to create a character as groundbreaking and memorable as Heath Ledger's Joker? Who knows, you could find yourself rooting for Electro over Spider-Man. This week, issue number 4 of my own comic Superbia hits shelves and Comixology. I've included a link in the video description to where you can download it. Not only does the first story arc come to a close, but find out what developments will lead to Tia Jenkins coming out of retirement to once again don her ASO costume for the next story arc. Although this might be the worst possible time to leave her daughter Zari home alone. Another comic book with a diverse cast is Storm Dogs. Issue number 3 also comes out this week, and it's unfortunate this title isn't getting the same attention as some other Image books. Check it out. And over at DC, Katana gets her own title, but not just because she's upgraded from Birds of Prey to Justice League of America, but because she'll also fight alongside the Dark Knight in Cartoon Network's upcoming Beware the Batman. This is also a huge week in general for mainstream comics, as Death of the Family concludes with Batman number 17, What's for Dinner, and Cyclops gets his own Marvel Now spotlight with the new Uncanny X-Men. And while who knows when we'll get to see the next generation of Ghostbusters on the silver screen, IDW is bringing them to you on the page. Is that Janine? And why do all the female Ghostbusters have to wear shorts and unzip the front of their jumpsuits? Finally, Katana is not the only one who's been promoted. Powers goes federal as Dina Pilgrim joins the FBI, and Marvel takes an oath that you don't have to have ever read Powers before to enjoy this new title. And that's this week's Stacktastic. I'm Grace Randolph for Think About the Ink. I hope to see you back on Friday for Between the Pages. Until then, happy reading.